Alright, hello Science 10, Mr. Beeline here with your lesson for today. We are talking about solutions. So what is a solution? A solution is a mixture that is consistent in basically everything. So consistent in composition. What I mean by that is the texture, the density, the color, everything is consistent. If it's properly mixed up, it is considered a solution. And a solution is composed of two different types of things. One is called a solute, one is called a solvent. They sound the same, but it is important to be able to tell the difference. The solute is the thing getting dissolved. Whereas the solvent is the thing doing the dissolving. So we can imagine if we, say, have a cup here, and we fill the cup up with water, and then inside here we decide to make some iced tea or something. We're going to pour some of that powdered iced tea crystals into our water, right? So if we just pour it right in and it just sits like that, it's not a mixture because it's not consistent the whole way through. Once everything has been dissolved, then it can be considered a mixture. Then it's our iced tea mixture. In this case, the solute is the iced tea crystals, whereas the solvent is the water. Now, with any sort of solution that needs to get dissolved, there's different ways to affect the rate of dissolving. Okay, so if we just let it sit as it is, it does take a long time to dissolve. And there's a couple things that we do normally to actually affect the rate and speed up some of these things. So one of the ways that we do this is by increasing heat. So increasing heat will then increase the rate. Things dissolve faster in hot, like hot water or a hot liquid or a hot solvent. The other thing we do is we increase the surface area. This would come out, say, for example, when you're making hot chocolate and you notice that some of the chocolate powder gets clumped up and then it's really hard to dissolve into your whole drink. That is because it's a very small surface area. And then once that breaks and all of the powder is spread out again, it becomes easier to dissolve. The last thing is stirring. So by stirring our mixture, we increase our rate. And that's something that we do almost every day with any sort of drink that we make that has a powder or something in it. So these are the three main ways that you can affect the rate of dissolving. Now a couple more terms here we have to consider. Another word that sounds very similar to solution is going to be solubility. And just from the word, we can kind of see that it has to do with the solution. And the second part of the word basically has to do with the ability, right? So solubility is the amount of solute that can be absorbed or dissolved by the solvent. And it's also important to note that your solubility changes with temperature. So we'll say at a given temperature, right? So solubility is the amount of solute that can be dissolved inside a solvent at a given temperature. This would be like, how much sugar can you put into your coffee before the sugar starts to just sit at the bottom? You can't dissolve any more sugar, right? There will be a point where it's just too much and it just sits at the bottom, right? That would be your solubility. To go with this as well, we could talk about concentration. And the concentration is the volume of your solute volume of your solvent. Or it could be something different here. It could be your grams or your atoms or something like that, right? So what we're talking about is how much solute is inside a given amount of volume, okay? With any solution that we have mixed up, it can be in 3 different states. And these states are unsaturated, saturated, and super saturated. So unsaturated means the solvent can still dissolve more. Saturated means the solvent has dissolved as much as it could. And then we have this interesting case called supersaturated, and this kind of comes up when you heat something up so that it has an increased solubility, but once it cools down, that the powder or whatever your solute is doesn't just come back out, right? So it ends up being a case where the solvent has dissolved more than it should. And again, this has to do with changing the solubility or increasing the solubility, putting everything in so that it is saturated at that solubility, and then dropping the temperature or something down to decrease the solubility. And then it becomes supersaturated. So again, these are the 3 states. So unsaturated, saturated, supersaturated. Okay, so this is super important before we even go into acids and bases, because we have to know how we even produce acids and bases. And that has to do with the fact that they are solutions. Okay, that's it for this. Stay tuned for another video on acids and bases.